Welcome once again to Grim 3D. Today we're going to look at DesignSpark Mechanical, the software that I use almost exclusively for designing all of the things I print. Stay tuned. So Space claims DesignSpark Mechanical is a free piece of software that anybody can go on and download. You do have to make an account, but the account is free. You can put it on multiple machines. They're actually really good with customer service. I've called them a couple of times. They've been Johnny on the spot. I like DesignSpark Mechanical myself because it was easy to learn. It was fairly simple interface, but very powerful software. Now, I'm not talking DesignSpark Mechanical is not for, like 3D sculpting. You're not going to make like rats and dogs and cats and horses with it. That's not what it's for. DesignSpark Mechanical is for mechanical drawings, and it does a fantastic job at that. Just about everything I've created for my printers, for around the house, for anything. In fact, the print that's going on behind me in the back that you can probably hear, that was just created in DesignSpark Mechanical, and it is a shop vac end that has a special curve on it that I can use for some special stuff. So why don't I show you how DesignSpark Mechanical works, and you can decide whether it's something you'd want to do, something you'd want to use. It's quick and easy. Let's go to the computer. So this is DesignSpark Mechanical 4.0. It's a fairly new version. So if you're downloading it new, this will be what you get to use. It's really fantastic, works great, and 4.0 has a lot of nice features that the earlier versions didn't have. So you're going to have to head over to the link. I'll put that down in the description. Download it, make yourself an account. Opens up right on your desktop. Here's what it looks like. Whenever you start up DesignSpark Mechanical, it either is showing you this quick start guide and it's going to show you this start page. Now you can get rid of the quick guide and have it just be a pop out on the right hand side if you want. So that'll get that out of the way. And then as far as the start page goes, I usually just X out of that down here and then create myself a new file or new design by going to File, New Design. So there's my new design plane. And you'll notice when it comes up, I've got my Z-axis, X-axis, and Y-axis staring me right in the face. I can rotate that around. I can do all that kind of manipulation that you can do with most of your computer-aided drafting software. Okay, so that's pretty standard. Up here in the upper left, you've got basically the same quick access toolbar that a lot of your other pieces of software has. And you have a menu where you can add and subtract things from your quick access toolbar. I'm not a big quick access kind of guy, but if that's what you like to do, then that's where it's at. Okay, there's some tabs across the top here. Let's talk about this file tab. So in the file menu right here, you've got all your normal stuff. You've got like new and open and save, all that kind of stuff. But what I want to show you is down here are the DesignSpark options. Now this options menu, this is where you'll do things like change your units from, metric or imperial, whatever you want there. You can set up your physical controls, click, right click, keyboard actions, all to match whatever other programs you're used to using. So if your slicer requires a left click for something and a right click for something else, you can actually set this up to be the same in your DesignSpark options here. Also, one other thing that I like to do in here is with my file options for an STL download, I really like to put this down here on fine. It forces the STL converter to create, smaller triangles out of the STL, which gives you a little bit better resolution when it gets over to the printer. So I usually do my STL files on fine, and that's all in the options here. And you can play around with that all you want. There's tons of stuff in there to customize the way DSM or DesignSpark Mechanical works for you. After the File tab, we have what's called the Design ribbon. So here's our Design ribbon across the top. It's chunked into sections. The first section is just a clipboard. The clipboard here works the same way as you'd expect any other clipboard to work. It's got copy, paste, cut. This one also has this little function right here that is a style painter, so you can duplicate styles across objects. I don't really use that much, but it's there if you need it. Then this orientation section just sets, how you're looking at your object on the screen. Are you going to zoom it? Is it in any kind of plan view? You can set it up to do spins and pans, but most people do those with their mouse anyway. So, okay. The next section here is the sketch section. These are all your drawing tools, two-dimensional drawing tools. And usually when I start a drawing, I start looking straight down at it. And I start with kind of a plan view and then build from there. So here you've got construction line and actual lines, a couple different ways to create rectangles or squares, ellipses, a few ways to make circles, arcs, tangent lines, all kinds of stuff here in the sketch plane. Those are pretty useful, and it's pretty easy. You just click it and then drag out your square or whatever wherever you want it to go. And by the way, one of the things that DesignSpark Mechanical does for you is pretty easy. In here, in these, you can actually just edit these with your keyboard if you want. So if I want this at 10 millimeters instead, I can go ahead and edit that, and it edits based on my anchor corner, which is where I started the drawing. I can also in here, which is kind of cool, if I haven't done the math myself, but I know that I need 10 minus 2, I can actually type in there 10 minus 2, and it will go ahead and calculate that for me at 8 millimeters. So once again, I could do like 25 minus 5, and now I'm back to 20 millimeters because that's 20 minus 5. Another thing that you can do in here that's kind of interesting, and it's independent of what you have your unit set at, is I can put this at 2 inches. Just put in my IN for inch mark, and it will actually throw that in there and convert it for me into millimeters because the units that I'm using are millimeters. So I can type it in inches and have it kick out millimeters. Kind of a cool feature. So if I wanted to put in 1 inch here, it would throw down an inch in millimeters for me. It's pretty slick, I think. Moving on, the mode section here is where you would switch between 3D mode and 2D mode, which they call 3D mode and sketch plane or sketch mode. There's also, if you notice, hotkeys for all of this. You can actually go into the help section here and download a full list of the hotkeys that are used in DesignSpark Mechanical. I don't use a whole lot of hotkeys in here. I use, copy paste, Control Z for undo, that kind of thing. But for the most part, I don't really get into the hotkeys. I probably should make my stuff faster, but there you have it. This next section right here is the edit section. These are tools not only for editing your two-dimensional drawings, but editing and creating three-dimensional drawings. So right now I have a two-dimensional rectangle right there. If I want this to be three-dimensional, I use this pull tool. And I can grab this and I can pull this up and turn it into more of a cube. Now I have a three-dimensional object. That's what the pull tool does. The move tool does exactly what it says. If I want to move something, I can select this, I can move the whole thing, I can pull it along any axis, I can change its orientation, I can really do anything I want to about moving that around in my work plane. The fill button is actually kind of interesting. It actually helps you remove anomalies or fill in areas that get cut out of your object. For instance, if I had a space here that was sunk into my object and I wanted to get rid of that, I could just use my select tool. I could highlight that part right there. I could highlight the recessed part, and I could just click the fill tool, and it just takes care of it. It uses the surface plane nearest to the recess to figure out how to fill that in. And the fill tool, which we'll look at later in other videos, it's got a lot of really fancy things that it can do too. That's just its basic option. The last tool in here is this blend tool, which is actually a pretty cool tool. If I were to create a circle away from my square. And I wanted to blend these two shapes together. I can use this blend tool, tell it I want this face, using the control key to blend with that face. And there it did it for me. It set it up. If I like what I see, I checkbox that, and now I've got a circle blended into a square automatically. It's a pretty sweet tool. It can do all kinds of blending, all kinds of tricks. It's got a bunch of options over here in this left-hand pane to mess with it and do some more interesting stuff with it, but that's another video. I'm going to undo that blend so that we can use these two objects. If you have objects that are right next to each other, and let's say I move this, it's right next to there, you'll notice that these are in fact, two different solids over here. If I wanted to join these, I can use the combine tool. Select them all, hit combine. Now they are in fact one object, one solid over here. That's the combine tool. It does some other cool stuff. You can actually use it to combine two shapes together using one on the inside to create a cavity in the other one, but that's another video. In this series, I'm going to spend some time with all of these. All right, if we want to get rid of that again, we want to separate something out, we can use the split body tool. We can split this object by this plane. Now all of a sudden, my objects are separate again. I can actually use this plane tool, we'll get to that, but I can use the plane tool to insert a plane anywhere I want. It doesn't have to be a plane that exists in the drawing already. I can put a plane in all by myself with that tool. So anyways, there's the combine tool, split, all this kind of stuff, project tool. We'll get into that later too. That's a little bit advanced. In this insert section right here, this is where you can put outside objects into your drawings. So this plane tool, like I just said, you can actually insert a plane anywhere you want. So let's say I want to insert a plane right there, and then it gives me this move box so I can move the plane basically anywhere I want. And then I can use this plane. I can split just either one of these or both of them. But let's say I want to split that cylinder by that plane. Now those are two separate solids, and I can do whatever I want with them really. I can move them apart, I can rearrange them, I can flip them, change them, do whatever I want. That's one of the things used for the plane. This tool allows you to create or add an axis. So these axes right here allow you to do things with these objects. You can use an axis for moving or rotating an object. If an object does not have an axis and you want it to have one, this is where you can add one. For instance, a cube does not have an axis all by itself. But if I wanted to add one, I could literally just go up here and I could add an axis any way I want. I can actually move those since they are now objects over here in my structure menu. Very nice. I can also add a new origin with this origin button. So that's pretty useful. Also over here, I can do a speed cylinder or speed sphere. I do use the speed sphere every once in a while. It's pretty easy, but the cylinder is kind of weird, hard to rotate. For creating a cylinder, I'd much rather draw a circle and then pull it up. That way I get exactly what I want. This one right here is pretty awesome. It actually hollows objects out. So let's say I was trying to 3D print a cube, but I needed it to be hollow for me, for my print. And I wanted it to have a 2mm wall all the way around, top, bottom, all 6 sides. I could select that. I could go here to my hollow out tool. I could set this instead of 1mm for 2mm. And then hit the check. Now, it's gradated a little bit, denoting that you hollowed it out, but you really can't see that it's hollowed out until you go into sketch mode, and if you put your sketch plane in that cube to create a view that is truncated or cut. So that's this shell button. It's actually pretty sweet for if you have a larger, more complex object that you want to be completely hollow. You can just create it as a solid object, punch the shell button, tell it how thick you want the walls, and the computer will take care of it for you. It'll actually do that with fairly advanced shapes. Doesn't have a problem with that. These inserts, so you can insert files, you can insert other drawings, you can insert, I think you can insert PDFs, not sure on that one, but I have inserted JPEGs. JPEGs usually, they don't do 3D printing much good here because you can't really turn a picture into a 3D print with this option. It just doesn't work. There are ways to do that, which we'll probably look at in future videos, but this is not one of them. If you were creating or engineering a full-on electronics project, you could import a PCB file, printed circuit board file, that would then you'd be able to design your object around it. So that's what that button is all about. And this one takes you to, and we're not really going to go there because it takes a long time, but it opens up a partner seller here in the window that allows you to download CAD/CAM files that are already created. Now, for 3D printing, you would think this would be awesome, but library is just too big to find anything really. So I don't have a whole lot of luck with that either. Here's your export options. So we've got, STLs in the 3D PDF, which is kind of cool that I can now export this in the PDF format to show other people or to put on my project. But as far as STLs and those kinds of things, I just use Save As. Right here in the Investigate section, though, I use this a lot. This is your calipers for measuring things. I can measure on my drawing from here, say, using the control key to there, and it will give me all kinds of measurements for that. So I can go back and look at things after the fact. I can see how long lines are if I want to. This, if I wanted to create an actual drawing with dimensions on it, I can create like an annotation plane here, and I can tell it I want to see the measurement from there to there. There's also a couple other cool things you can do with annotation plane, which we'll get into later, but that's annotations, annotation plane. And your bill of materials, so being focused on electronics and engineering and those kinds of things, DesignSpark Mechanical, if you import all of your parts, will help you manage your bill of materials and will get you a bill of materials quote from the DesignSpark or the Space Claim partners. Okay, moving on, our side pane over here, if you've noticed as we've been going, the top one here is your structure, where I can select or see or delete or change objects up here. I can actually make them visible or not visible, little check boxes. I can rename them if I want to. I can go down here to rename, and I can say that this is the cube. So if you want to keep a bunch of separate pieces clear in your mind, you can spend some time over here and you can name them. Makes it really slick for you to be able to keep things straight in your own mind. So over here, I highly recommend changing names of stuff. And then down here, you get all kinds of options and properties for any of the tools you're using. If you happen to be using a specific tool, the options for that tool will end up down here, the bottom of this left pane. So for 3D printing, that's pretty much the rundown on DesignSpark Mechanical. It's a pretty powerful tool. If you want to use it, it's free. You should try it out. It's really quick and really easy to learn, but it is super powerful. We're going to get into some of the things that it does within this series, and I'll show you some designs that I've created. You should be able to prototype super quickly, create things with specific dimensions, and it really is, because of its simplicity, it really is one of my favorite programs. I've been able to make really advanced objects with this DesignSpark. So I'm going to end this video showing you some designs that I've done in DesignSpark Mechanical. I just want to say welcome to my new subscribers. We're getting pretty big. It's pretty awesome. I'm liking that. 2 thumbs up on that one. If you're new to my channel and lurking around, subscribe down below. Leave a comment if you'd like. Smash the like button. ring that bell, and we'll see you out there.